And I appreciate each and every single one of you hopping on this call. Some of you, you may be driving, some of you may be busy doing other things, but you're plugging in and you're like, hey, I need to get this value. I'm seeing familiar faces from last year, the regulars, and I'm also seeing one or two new faces. So we're going to go ahead and kick this off with how we normally do it, which is what's going on in the markets, right? Like, what are the fundamentals? And so I'm just going to verbally go through one or two things. Now, firstly, PayPal has decided to become its own bank. And this was really interesting because, we're seeing a familiar trend because of things such as the Genius Act, because of things such as the Anti-CBDC Act, because of things such as the Clarity Act. More and more crypto-related based companies are saying, hey, I want to not only create my own stablecoin, but I also actually want to create my own bank, because they have that confidence from a regulatory standpoint that they're in the green, that there's not going to be any issues. And so LinkedIn it's a bit of a secret hub to find out on crypto information, and you might be surprised, but it's a good source of place to go to. And so as I was looking here, it had some information regarding the bank that PayPal actually want to create and start doing. And so as you can see here, it says PayPal Bank can serve as a template for other payments and fintech firms, financial tech firms, who are also looking to make that transition. Now, some of you may have noticed a trend. We have many companies who are allowing crypto payments to be a thing. You can go through such as Kalshi when it comes to betting. You can go to things such as Stripe. You can even go to Venmo. You can even go to Zelle in the future. All of these sort of fintech companies are saying, hey, I want to have crypto accessibility to the everyday person simply because of the popularity, but also because there's money to be made. There's money to be made from a business standpoint, from a producer standpoint with transactions. There's money to be made from a business standpoint in terms of brand promotion, right? Now, saying crypto, saying that you're going to adopt it is really a term that gets people excited, gets people buzzing. And so that's one of the things I want you guys to keep an eye out for. Now, going into the news, as you guys know, right, we start the call off with news and fundamentals, and then Gil dives into the technicals. There was something that happened, which was fairly sad in the past, 24 hours. Do you guys know what happened? And I'm talking economically, globally, what happened in the past 24 hours? Let's see if you guys are aware. Big in the news. I'm just waking up and I'm just hearing craziness. Venezuela. Trump striking Venezuela. I was just on a call yesterday with a marketing person from Venezuela. And, she was telling me about, hey, things are a bit crazy out here. Things are really unstable. And so let's just search up Trump and Venezuela. We're going to do this live on the call right now and see what's going on. Trump says the US is going to run the country after they captured Maduro, who I believe is the president of Venezuela. And this is wild. This is how you're starting the year off. Put a 5 in the chat if you guys are oh my gosh, wow, 2026 is starting like this. Not only is this sad, but it's such adverse times that we live in, such unpredictable times. And so, let me just give you guys a little bit of source about news events, okay? Because as traders, we go to a certain place, and this is kind of good to know, and that place is Forex Factory. And this is where we get our economic news. And if you click calendar here, guys, if you're a trader, this is really key. If you're an investor, this is just useful information to know. And as I click calendar on Forex Factory, it's going to show me the news events that are coming up for the next week. But I also can say, hey, what's the news events for the entire month? And that's going to give me a nice outlook on the things that are happening. And some of you may know that the yellow folders are low impact. So that means low volatility in the markets. And then the red folders means high impact, which means high volatility in the markets. And the orange is kind of medium. So we have, for example, medium here is OPEC, right? Like February the 2nd, and OPEC is basically the biggest oil collaboration of countries that come together. I can't remember all of the countries involved, but I know that it's Saudi, the US, and a couple of others. And so, whenever OPEC have an announcement, oil goes crazy because that's literally what the group OPEC is made for. They make decisions on oil. And so, as you can see here, the news for the next month, and you can go to the year and things like that. But let's just break something down here, guys. Like, when news events happens, how does it affect the markets? When Russia-Ukraine war happened, how does that affect the markets? And then, just from a short-term standpoint, how is it that as traders, we can then take our longs, our buys, or take our shorts on ourselves to kind of, maximize the opportunity? Now, here's the thing. Does the technicals affect the fundamentals, or does the fundamentals affect the technicals? Have you ever asked yourself, is it the news then affects the markets, or is it the market affecting the news? It's a bit of a chicken and an egg question. And this is a really important phrase I want you to keep in mind. News is the excuse. Now, this is really a smart money concept. This is basically a higher level institutionalized way of thinking, but news is the excuse to move the markets in the direction where the markets was to move to anyway. Okay? So whenever a news event happens, just keep this in mind. All it's doing is rebalancing the market to where it originally needed to be. Now, I'm going to use one or two advanced terms here, but just think about it. Let's say you're on TradingView and you see a massive imbalance, right? Well, hold on a minute. When that news event happened, it was the excuse to move the markets to that imbalance anyway, because the market is always going to equalize itself at some point in time. And this wasn't actually my original plan, but I just want to show you guys something because this is a bit of a breakthrough concept. Now, it always signs me out. Let me go ahead and just do something real quickly. I'm going to show you guys an example, and we're going to go to COVID. We're going to go to COVID. I changed my colors again. I hate when it does that. All right, cool. So let's go to COVID times, which was over here, 2020 to kind of 2021, 2022. Now, let me just search something. COVID pandemic date. Let's find out the exact date. Oh yeah, it was 2020. Oh yeah, it was 2020, like March, the lockdown, wasn't it? So I'm gonna go ahead here and put one of these vertical lines. I'm gonna go to March time. That was when the lockdown happened. And then we're gonna go over here to where the market rebalances itself. So for example, right? Now, the dollar was appreciating significantly for a long time. And I wasn't a trader back in 2019 or even 2020, to be honest. But what we notice here is this. Why is it that for almost 2 years, the market was just consistently bullish? In this period, guys, from 2018 all the way to 2020, there wasn't any particular reason as to why the dollar was appreciating so significantly. But imagine if we went back to this time. What is one question we're going to ask ourselves as traders? Well, the question is, how is the market going to rebalance itself to get back into these areas? How? Like, it can't just do it out of nowhere. There's got to be a reason. And if we go back down here as well, there's massive imbalances and mitigations for the market to play off. So we need a significant event. We need something that is going to be so large scale that is going to affect the global populace because the dollar is the reserve currency. So whenever the dollar moves, virtually every other currency moves. Like obviously, usually the major pairs, the ones that have USD as the primary pair or the secondary pair, but it affects the world. That event was the pandemic. That event literally moved the market to rebalance itself to where it needed to be anyway. Put a 10 in the chat if this is making sense. Do you guys understand the gist of what I'm saying here? As traders, we're looking at the technicals, but we're also realizing that there's going to be something that is going to bring the market back down to where it needs to be. Now, this was back in 2019, 2020, but guess what? Now we're in 2026. And so this war, this situation going on in Venezuela, well, guess what? This is going to bring the market down to a place potentially where we're looking at anyway. And we're seeing some areas up here that price can move to, but we're also seeing some liquidity on the downside. So here's the thing. News is the excuse to move the market down to equalize itself and rebalance itself anyway. But also, JP Morgan, Bank of America, all of these major players, guys, they have institutionalized money. They have money when they set buy or sell orders, it physically moves the market. I remember back in 2022 in Houston, there was a crypto trader in the powerhouse community, and he was very wealthy. He was a very wealthy young man. And there was this low cap crypto project. And he said, you know what? I'm going to have some fun with the markets. This project has a market cap, which was like, I don't know, maybe it had like a few million. It wasn't a lot, guys. And he said, I'm going to put in a buy and literally move the markets with my trade. And here's what's crazy. This was the first time in my life, I think Gil was there too, where I literally saw a trader in person, guys, set a buy trade, and literally on TradingView, the chart moved because of his buy order. And I was like, what? Like, he actually moved the markets. Like, I've never seen this in real life. He did it. And I was like, oh, this is what the banks do every single day. Like, I literally just saw a news article, guys, about JP Morgan getting fined $1 billion. $1 billion for market manipulation. But in the buy order, you know how much they got? 100 billion. What? Like, they earned 100 billion in the period of time that they were fined 1 billion for manipulating the market to profit 100 billion. That's crazy. But this is what happens in Forex, in foreign exchange, in currencies, in crypto. This is a regular thing. So news is the excuse. But guess what? There's a quote at JP Morgan that a lot of people don't realize. And this really blew my mind. And I learned this from somebody who has a 9-figure net worth. He said JP Morgan have this quote. And listen to this. There's the good reason why they do things in the markets. And there's the real reason why they do things in the markets. JP Morgan themselves live by this ethos. There's 2 reasons why things happen. Number 1, there's a good reason that's public. We publicly are going to tell you the good reason for what happens. Oh, the good reason is that there was a war in this country and, you know, we needed to provide financial aid. We needed to set up these charity organizations to help out. But the real reason is private, and the real reason is maybe we can buy the land at a distressed debt price, which is lower, so that we can invest low and sell high. You know, I don't want to go in the rabbit hole too much, but if you go to World War II Germany, guys, I don't know if people realize that it was literally the world's wealthiest man, Henry Ford, the billionaire, who was a US citizen, who was funding the German tanks and the German vehicles to provide for World War II. I don't know if people realize, but it was BlackRock that was buying all of the land in Germany after World War II. BlackRock, a US company, an investment asset manager who manages $13 trillion. That's very interesting. Ask yourself, why do these events happen? So I don't want to go too much in a rabbit hole. That wasn't actually fully planned, but these are interesting points that I want you to consider, guys. All right, I see the time. We're going to move on, and I'm going to show you guys something over here, because what can we look out for in crypto in 2026? what can we look out for in crypto in 2026? Put a 5 in the chat if you guys are learning something so far. You feel like I'm getting you thinking. You know what I mean? This is crazy stuff. But you know what? There's one or two documentaries to show you guys. You know, maybe we can send to you guys. I love learning about these things. But hey, 2026. So 2020 to 2021 was the year of the metaverse, the Web3. That was the year of NFTs, and that was the bull market of what was the other industry? Metaverse, NFTs. Oh, gaming. Oh my word. I don't know if you guys heard of Gala Games. That was such a popping project back in the day. You know, Zach Hogan, Jordan Morgan, all of Train House guys, the educators we learned from, they were literally like locked in on Gala. Like they were giving Gala call outs at stupid low prices. And I personally know people who went from 5-figure earners to 6-figure earners from investing in gaming. But guess what? The metaverse was huge back then. Like the metaverse guys, Sandbox, Decentraland, these are basically virtual lands that people were purchasing land, but land was like stupid expensive in like 2022 times, 2021, 2022. But also, things like Atari, the console, Atari had their own like land block in Sandbox or Decentraland universe, and they were like building stuff. So imagine, I don't know if you guys have played Sims on the PlayStation back in the day, but imagine like having your own little character, you're in the metaverse, and you can like shop for things and meet people and talk. Like it was kind of like Club Penguin back in the day. Like I don't know if you guys ever played Club Penguin or RuneScape. You know, like where you communicate with your character and you're in this world. Like hopefully the 1990s babies know what I'm talking about with RuneScape, Club Penguin, and these like virtual games, right? Does anybody remember those days? Because I was on that, yeah, that's what I'm saying. So that bull market, guys, 2020 to 2021 was the metaverse, was gaming, and was NFTs, right? We know NFT volume went crazy. Ethereum NFTs on OpenSea. We're talking about Solana NFTs on Magic Eden, like these marketplaces. It was a big deal. You know, now I'm giving you guys history because history doesn't repeat itself, but it rhymes, right? That's why I gave you the history of the World War II and things, because history don't repeat itself, but it does rhyme, right? And so now let's fast forward to 4 to 5 years, to 2026. Well, here's the thing. The last bull market we had, right, which was kind of like that 2024, 2025 period where things were growing, the industries that we're looking at for this upcoming bull market it's a few things. Number one, we're looking at AI focused projects. We're looking at technology based projects. Now, as you can see on the screen, I mentioned a term called DPIN. DPIN. Put a 5 in the chat if you've heard of the crypto industry of DPIN. Put a 10 if you haven't. So put a 5 if you've heard of DPIN crypto projects, and put a 10 if you've not heard of DPIN crypto projects. 5 if you have, 10 if you haven't. Okay, so some of you have, some of you haven't. Now, what is DPIN? DPIN is a category for projects that are physical infrastructure, but also have a digital element to it. Now, I'm going to go over here on CoinGecko. I'm going to go here on CoinGecko. I'm going to share this screen because the whole idea of these crypto and assets calls, it's not just to give you guys game, it's to educate you. It's to educate you. So whether you're a beginner or advanced, this is key stuff to know. So Coinbase, we utilize Coinbase to look at the pricing of cryptos, right? We think it's a fairly non-biased, platform to kind of get prices. It's the Yahoo Finance of crypto, right? Yahoo Finance for stocks. You go to CoinGecko for crypto. Now, let's go over here to categories. Oh no, we should not do that. We should go over here. Let's go over here to categories. Now, these are the categories of cryptos that CoinGecko has, and you can click them and you're going to see like number 1 ranked in terms of market cap, number 10 ranked in terms of market cap, or you could toggle it to whatever you want to find out, right? But let's have a look at DPIN. It may be a bit far now, so I might have to search it. I want to show you guys. DPIN. Cool. So Deepin, as you can see here, has a few projects that you guys have heard of. Render, that's a Deepin project. Filecoin, that's a Deepin project. I mentioned about my investment in Filecoin on like 2 weeks ago. And so Render deals with GPU processing. It deals with cloud processing um, in the crypto space. And so, Render's a funny project, right? It's a low cap project. It's under 1 billion. You could say low to mid cap project. But Render was something that's been talked about on the platform for like 3 years now, guys. And as you can see here, let's go to 1 year. It was up in the $10 range previously. Like it's had highs. And Render was actually featured on a Apple. It was the iPad launch. It was an iPad Apple launch, and in the advert was the Render logo because Apple were basically hinting at, yo, like we're integrating Render in the backend here for their technology. And so Render deals with GPU computer processing, but also we have Filecoin, and Filecoin is a large cap project. It's over 1 billion. You can say mid to large cap project. And Filecoin, as we know, has contracts with Lockheed Martin, the largest military security contractor for the US government. And Filecoin deals with decentralized storage for the interplanetary file storage. So basically like interplanetary, out of Earth type of stuff. And so Deep and their competitors, I think I've mentioned it before, guys, is AWS, Google Cloud, Dropbox, right? Which is centralized storage. And so why do I think Deepin, this category, is an interesting category for 2026? Because data and AI is, in my opinion, going to be number one or number two largest growing industries in the next bull run. 100%. This is what everybody is talking about. Look at what's happened in the past 2 to 3 years, guys. Grok, ChatGPT, Claude, all of these massive cloud server internet companies. What are they doing? They're creating their own AI. And what do they need to facilitate that? Or what are they looking at? They're looking at integrating blockchain and AI together. So this, in my opinion, is still fairly slept on as an industry. And that's why I want you guys to keep an eye out as I mention those projects. So number 5 here. More crypto-related IPOs. I've been speaking about this for weeks, for months. We already know, guys. The companies are coming out of my mind now. But we already know how many companies are looking at IPO. Right? For example, we have Ripple, which is the company behind XRP, looking at IPO in 2026, maybe 2027, probably 2026. We also have Kraken, which is a private company, looking at IPO in the next 1 to 2 years. Guys, these companies are going public. And an IPO, all it means, guys, is you can't buy shares unless you're an accredited investor. Basically, you have enough money, you fit the criteria when the company's private. But the moment they go public, they're now on the stock exchange. They're on the New York Stock Exchange. They're on the FTSE, which is the UK stock exchange. Like the Texas Stock Exchange is coming, right? Like it's literally coming to Dallas. So soon we'll be able to, invest in companies that are based in the Texas Stock Exchange. And so basically, whenever these companies IPO, like credible ones, the price sometimes goes ballistic. I mean, we can literally look at Circle. Look at Circle, which is the company behind USDC, which is top 5 largest stable coins in the world. It's not number 1, but it's top 5. And so if we go over here, Yahoo Finance, Circle, I'm going to show you guys what happened. I'm not saying this is exactly what's going to happen with the other companies, but it's a pretty damn good blueprint. And so let's go over here and look at the last year. So they IPO'd at, what was the price that came in at? No, it was less than 100. Or maybe it was. Oh, no, it was. Yeah, they came in at, guys, at like just above $100. And it rose. Yeah, that's right. And it rose about 150% to $240. And now it's, about 20% below the price that it IPO'd. But put a 10 in the chat if you think Circle long term, because remember, stocks, we're looking more long term. Put a 10 if you think Circle long term is going to be a great project to invest in. A great company, not project. Put a 10 in the chat if you think like Circle, the company behind USDC, one of the most secure stable coins that has a large proof of reserve. If you think in the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years, this is going to be an uptrend. Because I do too. So what about Ripple? So what about Kraken? Like, this is what I'm trying to say. For example, Coinbase, and this is what I mean with the adoption and institutionalized growth of crypto in 2026. Guys, Coinbase is listed on the S&P 500. The 500 largest companies based in America, guys. The index fund, S&P, is literally listed there. So, question is, what other exchanges or companies, crypto-related companies, are going to be listed, added to the S&P 500, are going to be added to the Dow Jones? Can you imagine? Guys, this is wild. Like, it's a very, very exciting time, 2026. So this is why I want you to keep an eye. Yeah, and look, just one more point to mention, guys. Increased crypto usage for payments, number 4. We're going to see this more and more and more. I mentioned this about PayPal Bank, but I'm noticing a trend of companies adding crypto paying capabilities to what they have going on. And honestly, there's minimal cons, there's minimal negatives for a company to do so. The biggest negative was regulation, and that's now really becoming a non-issue. So guys, I hope you got some game here. Put a 5 in the chat if you feel like you got some value, because we are not done. We're going to have my boy Gil come on here and give some serious game on the charts. Whenever Gil's speaking and doing this stuff, like, I'm also plugged in. I'm also like, yo, I need to take notes, because I already know he's going to dive in to things that I'm not currently aware of. So this is why we love doing this. So Gil, my brother, I'm going to pass it over to you, and I look forward to hearing what you have to say, bro.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Guys, put some 5s in the chat for the boy, Jean-Luc. Coming in always with some major game, major value, and really giving us a good point of view of what's going on and truly breaking it down, which I really enjoy. And I'm excited for 2026 because I know that these calls are only going to elevate. Myself and Jean-Luc are really going to, come together and really find the best way to maximize what we have here. But, every single call, we start with what's going on in crypto. We have Jean-Luc really give a good basis on it, not just like give it, but also explain it and break it down, which is honestly one of my favorite parts of the call. And really I'm going to come on here and go a little bit more on the charts. Today, I won't be crazy on the charts because I wanted to talk about a couple of things. So, if you were taking notes or whatever it is, I know, myself and Jean-Luc are very similar. We can talk pretty quickly. I do want to let y'all know if you guys have a question, you guys can ask in the chat box as well. Something that we'll be opening up a little bit more for like Q&A here and there on certain calls. But what I really want to go through is a good amount of information. Okay. So what I want to start with is the chart, right? So when we're looking at crypto, when we're looking at anything in crypto, we start with Bitcoin. Okay. We start with Bitcoin because Bitcoin is like the gold of cryptocurrency, of the blockchain, right? And the first blockchain that was created, first cryptocurrency that really hit off, right? So this is where we really start. Now, there's one thing I want to show y'all that we've been talking about. I talked about this on the last before the year ended, which was like a couple weeks ago, for crypto and assets. And what I was looking for, and just giving you guys a quick update of where I see Bitcoin, is I wanted to see this volume, okay, be higher than the previous one, but it to be a small candle. Okay. So I've explained this before. I'm not going to go too much into it, but we have a day and 5 hours left for this candle to close on the weekly. Now, what I really like is, number one, I've said this on the last call, is when Bitcoin does this and we're on the bullish trend, which we still are, the next move is skyrockets up, right? Right now, we're doing the exact same thing. And another thing I like to see is that people are very quiet in crypto right now. Like, put a 5 in the chat if you've noticed that it's been very quiet with crypto, right? People are talking about stocks, people are talking about gold, people are talking about silver, right? Like, things are up, but crypto is quiet, right? And what I've realized is when crypto is quiet, it's getting ready for a good move, mostly when we're on a bullish trend, which we are, right? So I really like what the market is right now. I want this to close kind of how it is. I want this volume bar right here to close above this one, right? Higher volume than the previous one. And if it can go even a little bit higher, that'd be great, because I want a big volume, small candle to close by the end of tomorrow. and that's going to be a really good bullish indication. I personally believe that Q1 is going to be really good for the crypto markets. And really what I want to show you is this, right? Right, is an understanding of what does every quarter look like for Bitcoin. Again, I talk about Bitcoin not because it's the only asset that I would say to invest in, but it's because it kickstarts everything. The market moves in cycles. It goes from Bitcoin to then Ethereum to then bigger altcoins like Solana and Chainlink, and then it goes to the smaller coins that are out there, right? So everything starts with Bitcoin. Now, one thing that we can see here is that, literally since 2017, Q1 is pretty green, right? So if you look at this is Q1. Obviously, in the past year, I'm not really counting this because I like to count kind of like 2020 and above, but like 2017 and above, because the market with Bitcoin before here and this times was really small. So I don't really like this data too much. The data that I like to see is this data. Okay. And one thing I can see is that we obviously ended bearish in Q4, which actually is the least, right? We only have a couple of red since 2017. We only have 4 red quarters. For that, even Q3, we only have had 3. Q2, we've had 4. Q1, we've had 1, 2, 3, 4, right? So around 4 to 3, right? Pretty even. But I personally like it being a green Q1. And then I really personally really like a Q2 being at the highest potential euphoria with a lot of things going on. I've talked about it. Maybe we just have a session next on like just 2026 and a lot of events and breaking them down and putting the math behind in the numbers. But I wanted to show y'all this because this is a really cool tool that you can find on coinglass.com. And really all you really do is you go to data and you go to Bitcoin returns and you kind of find these numbers and you start to see a pattern within it. So we're looking for it to be green Q1. If it's not, then I think Q2, Q3 probably the biggest ones. But that's something I'm looking with Bitcoin. Now, what I wanted to talk about as well on today's call, when John Luke was kind of talking, I was like, all right, like let me put something together and really have a good learning experience for y'all. Is I wanted to talk about the conversation of tokenization. Now, put a 1 in the chat if you've heard of tokenization. Put a 2 in the chat if you have not. So put a 1 if you have heard about tokenization. Put a 2 if you don't know what the heck I'm talking about. Like, yo, I don't know what the heck you're talking about tokenization. Okay, cool. We got a lot of 1s. Amazing. So I don't have to go too basic with this. Okay, cool. So as we know, tokenization is just representing a real world asset. It can be the stock market. It can be, it can be real estate. It can be fine art, right? It's just something that is an asset in the real world, right? In the physical world now is digital. That's basically all tokenization is. Now, the reason why I bring this up is because we've had Chase, JP Morgan, and I like to talk about Chase a lot because Chase is literally the biggest bank in the world, right? Worldwide now. It's not just in the US, worldwide. And also Chase was one of the companies, one of the institutions that were talking so down on crypto back in the day. They said crypto was a bubble. They said Bitcoin was a bubble. It wasn't going to last, right? And they have a lot of pull, right? Because think about it, they're the biggest bank in the world. So if they're saying, not to do crypto, then most people won't look at it. And back in the day, I don't know if you guys remember, I have Chase right now. So I remember this. There was a period of time where Chase wasn't even allowing people to purchase crypto using their bank accounts. Like they would block you. They would literally want to let you. You would have to call and they would say, nope, we're flagging it. And then you have to call again. And then sometimes they'll let it in, right? They were doing all that, which is wild. But now we have literally the CEO, Jamie Dimon, talk way more about crypto than any other bank, than any other institution. And one thing that they've been talking about is about tokenization. Literally, Jamie Dimon has talked about how important tokenization is going to be for the financial economy going forward. But what I wanted to talk about is this, which is very interesting. They already have funds that are already tokenized, meaning they're real world asset funds that exist to now be more digital. But I want to show y'all this. This is when I laugh low key because I don't know if you guys know this and a lot of people don't. I have, I know a couple people that work at Chase and don't even know this. And I want to let y'all know that for the last couple of years, all right, JP Morgan has been already working and has already created their own blockchain. Okay. They have already created their own coin. Okay. They already tokenized assets that they want clients to participate in and make it where they're going to be the first bank that also has everything when it comes to tokenization and also when it comes to having their own stable coin. So why is this important and why is this key? Well, number one is obviously we knowing that everything is going digital. They're using the Ethereum blockchain. I want to show y'all this. Okay, I like to show y'all so I don't think I'm like lying or making it up, right? But here, look, you can see here that a lot of the funds that they're using, a lot of the tokenizations that they're using, they're operating through the Ethereum blockchain. Okay. Ethereum blockchain, right? That's a blockchain that already exists, has been here for the longest, is the one that most people trust. And that is a very good thing because obviously, when something is being more used of, then obviously there's more value to it. And obviously, there's more potential adoption to it as well. So I wanted to talk about this because they've been working on this for a while. As you can see here, they've been having this for 4+ years. They literally been having this since 2020. I remember a couple of the educators that we followed talk about this before they even changed their name. It was a different name before, but they've been having this for around 5 years now, and nobody knew about it. Nobody talked about it. They were just working in the back end, and now they're starting to be more vocal about this. Now, this is key because, like I said, a lot of the eyes are going into blockchain, which obviously goes back into the markets. So that's one thing I wanted to talk about, which is really, really key about this and something that I think is good to know and something that I like to use as leverage, right? For myself, I know people that say, hey, crypto X, Y, and Z. I always try to test them and say, hey, like, do you know JP Morgan has their own coin? They're going to be like, no. Hey, did you know that JP Morgan already created their own blockchain? They're going to say no, right? So this is just more of a standard. And like John Luke was saying, we've seen way more companies adopt crypto payments. We see way more institutions adopt a lot of the crypto things. And you know what's funny? That it's quiet about it though. Like they haven't been loud. It's not on the news. Like things like this should be on the news. Think about it. Like put a 5 in chat, you would agree that things like this should be on the news. Like, hey, imagine how big this would be on the news, like NBC, right? JP Morgan has created their own blockchain. JP Morgan has created their own coin. Imagine in Spanish in Univision, JP Morgan ha hecho su propia moneda, right? Like that would be insane. But I want you guys to realize they don't want this to be loud. What is happening right now is that institutions are working behind closed doors, and all they're doing is waiting for that small regulation to happen to then open those doors. Really. So understanding this is super key on how early we are in this world. The financial industry is about to change. It's not going to be the same in the next 4 or 5 years, in my opinion. And really, in my opinion, it starts with 2026. All right. So I wanted to talk about that. Now, what I want to talk on here is, okay, Gail, this sounds great, but how can I benefit this for my portfolio? Now, what I like and what I think is going to be one of the biggest adoptions in 2026 and this next push of the run is going to be real world assets, right? In the past, it was things like NFTs, it was things like the metaverse, it was things like gaming, right? A lot of money went into that. And that will come back eventually, but I feel like it was like a little hype boost because it was more retail. I want you all to realize that in the last bull run, it was only retail. In this run, it's basically only institutions because the average person can't even afford or doesn't even want to buy crypto or any investment because of how expensive things are or how much not they're making, stuff like that. But institutions want to maximize on what already exists, right? And one of them is real world assets. So there's a category here. You go to CoinGecko, you look at categories. You can look at the top real world assets that exist. Now, obviously, as you guys can see here, we see Chainlink. Chainlink is obviously a part of a lot of different categories. They're also a part of the real world assets because why? They're providing data. Okay. They're providing data for almost everything right now. So that's why we really like Chainlink. I mean, me being transparent, I'm not going to say like amount, whatever, but Chainlink is my number one holding, right? I'm not telling you it should be that for you, but for me, it's my number one holding for that reason. It's a part of every single part of what is coming and what institutions are being a part of. Okay. Now, something else that I looked at real quick, I don't want to go too crazy into it, but it's this one. This is actually the number one real world asset, which is kind of interesting. Again, I just saw this for the first time, so I'm kind of showing you guys what I'm seeing. I'm seeing that this is a company that is literally providing home equity. Like this is providing loans, right? This is a company that is literally providing, fast and easy loans for people for their home renovations or even potentially buying a home, which is wild. Again, it's a real world asset, right? Because that's, obviously real world asset. So things like this are starting to happen. And this is a crypto. This is a crypto company that is a part of the DeFi markets, the RWA. So this just shows where the world is going. Okay. I want y'all to know that the days of you getting loans from the banks are going to die. Okay. There's going to be different competitions, right? It's still going to exist, but also a lot of different players are coming in and there's a lot of different change of money. One thing I see in the next 5 to 10 years is a change of wealth. I personally believe that we're living in an era right now, which I'm really blessed to be a part of, that the money is transitioning from here to here. And the ones that are going to either keep the money or transition the money to them are the ones that are going to be adopting the blockchain more than the rest. Okay. So that's something to be really knowledgeable about. And hopefully it gives you some understanding. So real world assets I really like. Now, to give you guys one that I personally like a lot as well is Ondo. I've talked about this before, but again, it's a real world asset. It's on the smaller side. It's still technically a main cap coin, but I personally believe this can be a 10, 15 billion market cap token. Once it's adopted, the real world assets that it provides is honestly insane. Things like treasuries, they have different partnerships. A lot of people are already playing in this place. Obviously Chainlink has partnered with Ondo to provide the data for it. So there's a lot of good things with Ondo. So if you're looking at a crypto and real world assets that maybe hasn't had a crazy move yet and it's new, I would recommend Ondo to look into as well. All right. So that's what I want to talk about with Ondo. Put a 1 in the chat if this makes sense. I want to talk about tokenomics, tokenization. I want to talk about what are one to look into, which is Ondo, in my opinion. And even just looking at the chart, guys, just real quick, because I also want to go through some stocks to end today's session. Because it's something that I want to add a lot more to our conversations is stocks, because something I'm getting into way more now. So Ondo right now is literally at an amazing area. Literally, it is down 80%. We're right now, yep, exactly 80% down. And this is the best times to buy an asset that have utility. When something has high utility and low pricing, these are really good opportunities, right? So I personally really like this. Even it going back to the all-time high, it's literally like a 3x, 4x, something like that. So it's really good. And obviously I can see it going higher, but even just the minimal of all-time highs or even $1 will be a really good turnaround when it comes to your portfolio. Okay. So that's what I'm looking at there. Now, what I wanted to go through to end today's session is going through some stocks. Now, fam, I want to know, put a 5 in the chat if you have a stock portfolio or you're looking to start building a stock portfolio for 2026. I almost said 2025, right? 2026, right? If you either have one or you're looking to build one starting in 2026, this is kind of where I'm going to be transitioning to as well. Obviously, still doing crypto and all that, but I also understand that there's diversification is key. And I also understand that I realize actually is that the stock market and the crypto market don't correlate as much as we thought. Okay. And there's reasons for that. And obviously, a lot of these companies are transitioning to having a little bit of both, right? Crypto in the back end and then traditional in the front end. So the markets are going to start doing this, in my opinion. Like it's going to be like one whole thing. It's going to be crypto and stocks, but then stocks have cryptos. So they kind of got like integrated, right? So obviously with tokenization, things like that will happen as well. So I'm going to go to some stocks that I personally like. And I'm going to give you guys some backing on why I like these. Okay. So the first one I have, and y'all can write these down, whatever it is Netflix. All right. Netflix is something I'm really looking towards, to be honest. Just looking at the chart, fam, I personally want to see a 50% decrease, right? So I kind of like around $70, to be honest, for entry. And the reason for that is I like retracements. I don't like to buy things at tops. I like a 50% retracement on the Fibonacci. So I personally really like anything under $80 for Netflix. Okay. Now, why do I like Netflix? There's really two big reasons. Number one is that they're actually going to be acquiring Warner Brothers. I don't know if you guys have heard, but obviously Netflix and Paramount were fighting for Warner Brothers. Um, I'm not the most happiest of Netflix winning, but at the same time, I need to go with the money is because there's a lot of politics behind this, and I'm not going to go into it because there's not a politics session. But Netflix basically owns like the top news, channels and stuff like that. So there's a lot of control in Netflix. So it is what it is. Can't really control it. It's wild because Warner Brothers actually rejected Paramount's higher bid. Like, imagine you getting a high bid and like a lower bid, and you reject the higher bid. Like, isn't that weird? Like, isn't that weird? Like, why would you reject the higher bid? There's reasons for that. But anyways, Netflix is looking to actually win that bidding, and Warner Brothers owns the top movies. Now, if you guys haven't seen, there's so many movies coming out in 2026, right? Put a 5 in the chat, or yeah, put a 5 in the chat if you've seen all the movies that are coming in 2026. I'm not gonna go into all of them, but in general, yeah, there's so many movies. They just put this top 2026 movies. Okay, maybe not all of them are owned by Warner Brothers, but Warner Brothers owns like basically the top movies in like history, to be honest, right? So just looking at 2026, obviously I'm not saying all of these are owned by this. A lot of them is actually Disney, so I'll talk about that here in a little bit as well. There's a lot of big movies coming out in 2026. So I personally think the media world is going to be having a very big increase. Now, on top of that, fam, Netflix is now streaming sports. Netflix streamed the NFL. I don't know if you guys saw that. For the first time in history, we had the NFL Christmas games on Netflix, right? We have boxing matches on Netflix. They're live things now. So now subscriptions are going into the live world, the live sports, the live TV, right? Live entertainment, right? So now this game is changing, and Netflix is honestly playing their moves right. So I personally like Netflix as the number one streaming, really place because they're the first ones to stream big headlines like they have. There's a couple other ones that I'll talk about, but I really like Netflix. All right. So Netflix, something I really like if you're looking for a portfolio. So really, I'm looking around $80 or below. Anywhere in this area I kind of like for Netflix for a higher high coming into 2026, 2027, 2028, and so on and so forth. Right. Now, the next thing I want to talk about real quick is Coinbase. Now, I'm not going to make it too crazy. Coinbase is the number one exchange in the US for crypto. I like it because it gives you a ownership of crypto without owning crypto. Because this exchange, obviously, when Bitcoin goes up, this exchange will also go up as well. So if you want to have exposure of crypto in the stock market to diversify yourself a little bit, Coinbase is a good one because they're not going anywhere, to be honest. They basically are the face of the US in crypto. So they have to be here long term. All right. Now, the next one I want to talk about is actually Block. I don't know if you guys have heard about Block or know who Block is, but put a 7 in the chat if you've heard of Square. Right? Pretty sure you guys have heard of Square. Put a 7 in the chat if you've heard of Cash App. Put a 7 in the chat if you've heard of Afterpay. All right. Block owns these three and a couple other things. They own literally these big things all over when it comes to processing systems. And they now also add Bitcoin for transactions and stuff like that. Obviously, they own Coinbase. And as you guys know, you can buy Bitcoin specifically on Coinbase as well. But they're actually going to be offering Bitcoin payments for Square for their transactional platforms and things like that. They're going to start adding Bitcoin. They actually already did for payments. Like Jean-Luc was saying, these things are already happening. I really like this company as well. And as we can see, fam, we are pretty low right now, right? We're literally down how much? Literally down like around 80% as well. I personally like this area that is kind of at right now. Anywhere around the 60s and the 50s, I really like. Okay. So I kind of like this area, even where it's at right now. I was looking for this box. It came into my box. It's rejecting right now. So I like Block really for a lot of different reasons. And like I told you guys, they're being a part of what's going on in crypto as well, which is really key. Next one I want to go through kind of quickly is PayPal. PayPal is a really good company that is doing a lot of big things. One of the things that they're doing, fam, is that they're wanting to form themselves into a bank. Like literally, right? They already offer crypto and stuff like that. They bought out Venmo. I didn't know that until I used Venmo the other day, and I was like, wait a second, like PayPal owns them now. It's kind of wild, right? So they're buying out, platforms like that, and they're actually now wanting to become as well a bank where they also offer loans and savings accounts. Now, this is big because again, right? Imagine PayPal starts going into more of a bank and people start using it like a bank. Now they have more money, right? They have more money, people more use them. Obviously, that can go into the stock being a very high thing. And they're getting very involved with crypto. They actually were one of the first ones to get involved with crypto. They have their own stable coin already. PayPal does. So as you guys can see, we are down 80% right now, right? 80% sounds really good, right? Like, so I'm saying like 80% is pretty good. And it's funny because people think that only happens in crypto. Oh, crypto's so volatile, but stocks are down 80% right now. But this is a good thing because remember, you want to buy low and sell high. So I see this as a really good play. I personally like around the $50 or 55, really anywhere here. I personally do like for PayPal as well, something that Max Sotero has talked about a lot for your portfolio. So I really like this one as well. And then a couple other ones to give you guys some bases. And again, I'm just going through kind of quickly to give you guys some outlines. Sometimes I might go more in depth for one or two. But Nike, right? Put a one in the chat if you've ever shopped at Nike or you own Nike. I own a lot of Nike because my wife used to work at Nike, and now my wife's sister works at Nike. So we get Nike a lot. I'm not gonna lie, that's like a family gift that everybody gets. Everybody gets eventually some sort of Nike, right? Now Nike is down. Okay, Nike is down around 65%, and they have just appointed a new CEO. Okay, the new CEO, he was actually, chief executive, right? A CEO before in around until 2020. Before he was for a time from a time to 2020, and he retired, and then he's back. So one thing I like to see is what happened when he was a CEO. Well, in 2020, from this time, 2018 to 2020, this is when Nike had its move of 100%. Okay. In 2 to 3 years, he was the CEO during that time. So I like that. Why do I like that? Because I think, businesses do plays for a certain reason. So I personally can see Nike making another move going into 2026. And I really am a very big favor of that. I just think Nike is obviously going to be here for a very long time. They're appointing a new CEO. Tim Cook is still a part of it. He's just a different role. I really believe it's not Tim Cook, somebody else. I personally believe that he is going to be a big part of what's coming. Like he literally was a part of the company for like 32 years, raising it from where it was. So I think it's not a coincidence. And it's not a coincidence that this happened when the market is low, price is low. Appoint a new CEO, right? Who before brought Nike to, highs, right? So understanding that I think is kind of cool. And bridging it together as well. So I really like Nike. Snap is another one. There's a Snapchat, right? I didn't find, I'm not gonna go too much into it. But I do like the numbers. I do like the charts. I do like this volume right here. This is massive on the monthly. Big volume, small candle, right? So Snap is a good low, cheap stock that you can look into as well for your portfolio and kind of, seeing how you can diversify yourself. And the last three I'm going to go in here before we end the session is Paramount. Okay. I think, all right, Paramount is a sleeper. I personally think, even though they're going to lose the bidding with Warner Brothers, I think Paramount is a sleeper. There are actually a lot of partnerships with Amazon because I actually have Amazon, have Amazon Prime, and they're actually, you also get Paramount with them as well. You can get it through Amazon as well. And they're also live streaming. They live stream sports. I personally like the CEO. I like the CEO of Paramount more than like Netflix, in my opinion, politics wise, right? Whatever it is, like, kind of what they believe in. But I like Paramount. I think it is a sleeper. They also have a lot of money. Okay. They have a lot of money Because remember, they were going to outbid Netflix. They outbidded Netflix for cash, right? For Warner Brothers. So imagine how much, what else they want to purchase, right? So I feel like Paramount is a very big sleeper as well. And it's a cheaper stock as well. So I personally do like Paramount. Their numbers look really good. We might have another session on how to break down the financials of it. We've had it before. Patrick Kenny's good at it. So if you want to understand stocks more in depth, go through Patrick Kenny. Patrick Kenny has literally a course. He does live sessions every single day throughout the week, basically at 10 a.m. CST. And then for crypto, you want to look at MicroStrategy. So we have best of both worlds, guys. Everything that I'm looking at, I've literally plugged into their sessions. MicroStrategy also talks about stocks as well, which is amazing. But with saying that, the last two I want to give y'all and talk about a little bit is number one is Roku. Roku is something I've been looking at since literally 2022. I was looking at this because I remember during COVID, Roku went crazy. Why? Because of the pandemic, and every TV had Roku or started to get Roku. Today, a lot of TVs, if not a high percentage of TVs, have Roku on their TV. Like, put a one in the chat if you've seen that. If you've seen Roku on TVs, like they're already embedded in there, right? I don't have one. I got a Vizio's recently, so I don't doesn't have Roku. But my parents, for example, my sister's TV, they have Roku. A lot of TVs that I know have Roku on them. So this is something that's, I think, a big sleeper as well. Their finances are really good. Again, I'll show them another day. So I personally do like this. Maybe potentially coming back to around 300 to 400. Right now, it being at $100. All right. So this is another one that I kind of like. And then the last one is Target. Target is something that I always saw, and I'm like, yeah, like this is actually going to be a good one because my wife is actually at Target right now. Believe it or not, she's at Target getting things, right? So she shops at Target a lot. A lot of people shop at Target. It's becoming more like a trendy thing. Obviously, they had some issues going into 2023, 2024. But I personally believe that Target is on a rise again going into 2026, 2027. So I like Target at the zone it's at now, basically. Really anywhere around $100, I think is a really good entry for Target for your portfolio. I know this is a lot of stocks and I went through a lot of information. Again, I'm not telling you to buy every single crypto or every single stock that I talked about, but I made to tell you that as you can see, the opportunities are now. Like everything is down and been doing good things. They're making moves. And that's probably one of the best times you want to be a part of things like this. Now, the last thing I want to say to end the session, which I already kind of mentioned it, is again, if you want to get more into crypto specifically, if you're new on today's call and you're like, hey, Gil, a lot of this went over my head. I don't understand anything when it comes to crypto or stocks. I highly recommend to take this first month of the year to go through the stocks and crypto courses that we have here. So under courses, you go under Max Chatero, and this is where you're going to find anything when it comes to crypto. So we have literally Crypto 101, right? If you know Arabic, you can do Arabic. If you know Italian, you can do Italian. If you know Dutch, you can do Dutch. But if you know English, you got it, Crypto Basic 101. We also have how to start your portfolio and also how to chart and what Max Chatero looks for. And as well, guys, we're looking as well for stocks. Patrick Kenny is a dog. He is one of the best in the game, I think, in the industry, to be honest. And he has one about stocks and also about options, which is more trading. And then stocks is more about investing on that side. So with saying that, fam, I wanted to end with that. I appreciate you guys for being on today's call. I know Austin saying that he's been looking into nuclear energy companies. I like that. That's something I might look into myself as well. But I think when it comes to stocks, guys, it's a little bit easier to look at because it's more of like physical, right? We can see like companies. So start to realize what companies are getting in position and are they at a high price or a low price? Even though a company might be doing good, but the price is too high, it might not be something to look into. But then you have companies like Netflix that are making moves. They're already news, have live sports. They're doing this. They're going to look to buy Warner Brothers, and the stock is going down. Those are where opportunities lie. All right. So yeah, I know last thing you're saying about Apple. Yeah, Apple's that example, like I was telling you. If I'm not mistaken, Apple is very high right now. Look, I'll show you this to end the call. So if you want to hop off, you can. But if you want to stick around so I can talk about this real quick, you can stay here. Look, Apple is a good example that even though, yeah, cool, good company, whatever, I can look at the numbers, we're very high. For me to even start looking at Apple, I would have to see it come at least here. Minimum, personally. I would have to see it come down at least 25% because I don't like to buy stocks at the top. Same thing with Tesla. Tesla is something that obviously is doing a lot of different things. Where do I have it? Tesla. Stocks. Yep. Yeah, same thing with Tesla. Tesla is too high. It's just too high for me, right? If I was to even think about Tesla, I would maybe want to see something here, which is around a like 20% decrease. That could be a good shout, but it's just too high right now. Right. So again, you don't want to just look at the company, you want to look at the charts and look if it's a good buy potential or you have to be patient as well. All right. Hopefully that makes sense. Jasmine. Okay, cool. So yeah, we'll be saying that, guys. I appreciate you guys for being on today's call. I'm excited for what's to come. Stay tuned for these crypto and assets. Invite individuals. Just so y'all know, we might be changing it up how we stream in the next week. So just stay posted for all powerhouse calls. And also remember, we have the biggest, can't forget about this, the biggest conference in 2026 in all of the US, in my opinion. You know, literally anybody in our industry, I think, needs to be here. And I want to see every single one of you guys here in Dallas, Texas at the conference for February 7th, am I mistaken, of 2026, guys. So if you haven't gotten your tickets, you can go to the powerhouseuniversity.org website. At the very bottom, right now my thing is lagging. But at the very bottom, you'll be able to purchase your ticket. If you haven't purchased your ticket, highly recommend it. I'm gonna give you guys a secret discount for the ones that stayed here to the end. If you put in Zinrai in the promo code, you get a discount. All right. Don't tell anybody. Don't tell everybody in Powerhouse. Just, only if you hop on the calls, I'll let people know. But you have a promo code. If you haven't got your ticket, type in Zinrai. I believe it's all caps, or if not, all lowercase. And you'll be able to get a discount just from myself. All right. Don't tell anybody about it. All right. Junior told me not to say anything. So I'm going to tell y'all though. All right. So we're saying that. Appreciate you guys. You guys have a great weekend. And I'll see you guys on the next crypto and assets. Peace.